Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So, we were looking at the heart last week and we said something quite important about it. Of all the things that you can work on in life and all the things you can study, what is the most important? Fiqh, aqidah, science of hadith, tajweed, Arabic language, or how to purify your heart.
How to purify your heart.
Right. That and so there's two sides to it. Number one is yes, correct. The other side to it is it's not something academic anyway. It's something you have to apply. So, right, I teach in Islamic school, right? What do I want my students to do when they leave school? Like, what is your curriculum? Well, basically, as long as they have a pure heart, I really don't care what they know and what they don't know. Like, it really doesn't matter. So do I care if they only know Fatiha and half of Surah Al-Falaq? No, I don't really care. That's irrelevant. Do I care, for example, if they understand what a madhab is or what it isn't, or the history of development of madhab? No, I don't really care. That's totally irrelevant to what somebody coming out of an Islamic school or should have. Um, they should care about, I don't know, memorize a hadith or haven't memorized a hadith, or know what it means for hadith to be in Sahih Muslim versus in Bukhari. This doesn't mean these things are just tools. Everything is just a tool. But the actual work is our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's Iman, right? That's you, that's me, that's who we are. That's your moral standing in Allah's eyes. Everything else is just is just a symptom of it, right? The fact that somebody wears hijab is very important, but that's something that's symptomatic of the health or sickness of the heart. The fact that somebody prays on time is something that is a symptom of the health or sickness of the heart. That's what it is. How much you focus in prayer is totally 100% reflective of the health or sickness of the heart. That's all it is. How you talk to people, whether you're nice, whether you are happy or unhappy. So the Prophet ﷺ, despite going through all the difficulties, was a very happy person, right? I don't know why it's stuck in my head. I'm not sure why. But, sometimes, I don't know, maybe emotions are transported at times and place, right? Maybe he's going to have a daughter, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ lost his daughter, right? And she wasn't young, right? So like, what is it like losing your daughter when she's that old? Like she wasn't like a baby. Losing a baby is hard, right? But losing somebody who's like an adult, you've lived life, this and this and this and this and this, and they die. Very hard. But the Prophet ﷺ was a very happy person, despite everything, despite all difficulties, right? All sorts of hardships, continually being stabbed in the back by hypocrites surrounding him, right? People, your closest people who are praying with you in your masjid hate you and wish you would die. And those, right? It's very, very, very difficult, very hard life. But he was a very happy person, right? So this is deen, right? Everything else is just the tool for deen. Tajweed is a tool for deen. Arabic grammar is a tool for deen. Fiqh is a tool for deen. Of course, you need to know fiqh because if you don't care about what is halal and haram, how could you possibly, like, how you are functioning spiritual person? Like, you can't. It's not possible. You love Allah, but then you don't do what He says. It doesn't mean anything, right? You fear Allah, but yet you do things that He says don't do. That doesn't mean it. This is a meaningless statement, right? It's a meaningless statement. May Allah forgive us all, right? So this is the big thing. So we were talking about showing off last week, and we spoke about some levels of showing off. Badr, can you remind us?
Um, well, I remember you mentioned like there's the very obvious like showing off wealth and showing off worldly possessions, but then there was like showing off like good deeds and things like that. And then you said like the final example I remember you mentioned was like if you did something good and nobody knew about it, so that was good, but then you found out that people found out and you felt good about that.
Good. From what angle do you felt good? So
Yeah.
what
Like
what
you felt good that people knew about it and
were impressed by you,
yeah, we're impressed. Yes.
as opposed to, for example, a father is happy that, for example, your kids, they also used to hear this noise, right? And like, what is this noise at night? And it's like, oh, daddy used to be praying. They didn't even know what tahajjud was. And they're like, oh my God, that was dad praying. Like, so that's a good thing, right? Like, you left an impression on your kids, right? Or people see you doing something, right? that you want them to see you do, and you're happy that they saw that you did the right thing. But it's not that you're that. But when you want to show off, that means I want to become greater in your eyes for that reason, right? And so sometimes you might show off, for example, for other reasons, like for a job, right? I don't want you to be impressed by me. I want you to hire me. It's two different things, right? I want you to know how intelligent I am so that you hire me. That's not the same as showing off. Showing off is I want you to know how amazing I am in vis-a-vis who what I am and not vis-a-vis what Allah has given to me. Right? Showing off, mashallah, you show off a woman, for example, shows off a new dress to her friend. Oh, and like, wow, that's so nice. So, yeah, you should see the other thing I got. So, is that being a show off that you showed off something you bought? No, because you could be from the point of view of showing something that Allah gave you. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Allah blessed me so much. I got this really nice dress, and she shows it to her friend. Or a guy says, check out my new car. It's the best car ever. MashaAllah. He's not showing it off. He's sharing that blessing with somebody else. It's very different, right? And so so a lot of these things, anyway, we have to start working and we have to start simple because again we mentioned last week each and every one of us, we're like an onion, we have levels, and if you don't start working from the outside you can't work on the inside. So you can't work on different deeper levels of showing off. Like my example last week was showing off to myself, right? Showing off to yourself, right? like like you're trying to keep your self-own image in your eyes, and so you do X, Y, and or Z, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so you know that's really weird. um And so, as opposed to doing something generally because you want to please Allah. Um, but you can't work on those things without working on bigger things, right? So you have to start coming down. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, as you work on things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you more deeper things. But what happens is people don't work on the outer level, right? They don't work on the outer level, so they just continually have all these things inside them. That's it, right? So it's not, because they don't want to change company. They don't want to change how they live life. They don't leave the haram, and they don't want to work against themselves. They won't do it. They're in their comfort zone. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. And so there's a hadith. You could go ahead, Nadir. I'll try and find this hadith.
I just wanted to ask that at the end of the class, you mentioned that the first five there were kind of all one. Could you maybe explain that, what that meant?
Just give me 1 second.
Thank you.
So I'm just sending my son to get a book. So yeah, it's all one thing. Symptomatic is what is the center of your being, right? If you think about, here's a person who was in the alam al adwah. You were in the world of souls, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to you, Alastu bi rabbikum? Am I not your cherishing Lord? Like, am I not the only source of good for you and the whole source of good for you, your whole dreams and hopes and aspirations and everything that you should look at? Are you not totally impoverished? Like you have nothing and you only exist through me, right? And that's obvious. قالوا بلى. They said, obviously, right? There's nothing else to distract you. There's no career, there's no your looks, there's no people look at you, people like, there's no, you know, there's just nothing. There's just you and Allah. It's easy. You come into the world and it gets all messy. And you're hungry and you're thirsty, and then this and then that, and then all these different things, and then you take on an identity and you start having self-image and all these things, and then it becomes very confusing. And so in that confusion, all of these diseases come out. Like Allah is not the center of your being. So let's say, for example, focus in prayer, right? Somebody focus on prayer, they have to work to focus on prayer. Why do they have to work to focus on prayer? Because Allah is not the center of them. But somebody who has a pure heart, they don't have to work to focus on prayer. They have to work to focus on the dunya, right? It's hard for them to you know, like you have a long conversation with them about cars or about makeup, and they find it very difficult. They keep trying to see how that fits in their world, their way they are. So they don't have doubts. They don't consider themselves above other people because they're only looking to Allah. They're only looking to Allah, so they don't even they have no aspiration and hope and dreams in anybody else. It's just Allah. So they would never show off to anybody. It's just a thing they wouldn't even do, right? And so that it's all one thing, right? And so, so that's why there's kind of two ways to do this, right? There's self-observation and being self-critical and working on yourself and nafs al-lawwama, right? You have to be doing that. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Right? And your wife will help you on that too, right? She's like, or your spouse, right? Like living life, you realize there's problems, right? You work, for example, and you realize how lazy you are. If you had your own company, you'd be like, no, I did a strategic decision. But you work, you're late to work every day, bro. Like you have a problem, right? So dealing with other people in general, and particularly people with family stuff, that you realize they will realize you have an anger issue, you have a pride issue, right? It's observable. Those who are around you, it's observable, right? And so you see these different issues, but then you work. So one side is that work. The other side is you pushing on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dhikr, in shukr, in ibadah, right? And the closer you work on those things, you're pulling yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that way. And then Allah's pulling you in reality, right? You're not really pulling yourself towards Allah. Allah's coming closer to you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you things, right? So a lot of it, sometimes it feels a lot of like what's it called? They call it the weird, like a lot of the work that you have to do. You got it? Okay. Okay. Right. But if you have good company, right? If you have good company and you are working on it, and then it works. But if you don't have good company, and if you're not working day and night, and you don't really kind of giving up, you're not really doing it. So I'm trying to find this quote. My son just got me the book here from Hassan al-Basri, um, about like people going to the next stage. People don't want to go to the next stage. So here's a nice quote from Hassan al-Basri anyway, if I just read this. So this is from a class I have online. Just share it with you. So he says, Hassan al-Basri, I'll just read the English. He said, the believer manages himself and calls himself to account for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of rising, the reckoning will be easy for the people who have already held themselves accountable. So they're there watching. Am I a show off or not? Am I this or not? Am I inclined to the dunya? They're really on their own case, right? Who have already held themselves accountable in this world. And the reckoning will be hard for those who indulge in this matter without reckoning. When something good suddenly happens to a believer, he says, by Allah, I desired to have you and I needed you, but by Allah, there was no way to get you. How unlikely, how unlikely. There was something in the way between me and you. And when something escapes him, he comes to his senses and says, I did not want this. What do I want with this? By Allah, I will never return to this if Allah wills. So something, he's not even interested in things. The believers are people whom the Quran has made steadfast, and it has come between them and their destruction. The believer is the prisoner in this world who strives to free himself, right? He's working on himself, and he is not sure of anything until he meets Allah. So he's dead scared. As opposed to, so if you're not dead scared, you end up just chilling. Are you free today? Yeah. What are you doing? Just hanging out. Like, that's impossible. Someone who's dead scared. And he is not sure of anything until he meets Allah. He knows that he will be taken to task for his hearing, for what he listens to, for what he sees, for what his speech and his limbs. And he knows that he is taken to task for all of that. That's not the quote that I wanted, but um, But it takes work. People don't want to do the work. So then they don't change. And so then Islam becomes empty, right? So what is it, becomes, I think it becomes a point, something like meaningless. Just like, yeah, I pray, but I don't really focus. So why do I do this? Why do I do that? Uh, I don't know how to find this. So, I know I can't find it right now, but Hassan al-Basri, he quotes the Prophet ﷺ, right? Hassan al-Basri is a tabi'i, right? So it's not necessarily a Sahih hadith. But anyway, he says that like the believer, he gives the analogy of like people in life. He says there's a tribe of people, okay? There's a group of people, okay? And somebody comes up to them and says, guys, you need to get out of this valley now because you're going to be attacked. So they all like get up and move. So they go to the next valley, okay? And in the middle of the night, an army comes through that previous valley and they're saved from it. And like, oh wow, that's great. So they had Iman, right? They listened to the warning, they took the action and they were saved. And then the next warner comes to them and says, guys, listen, you're going to be attacked. You need to move to a next valley because you're going to be attacked. But they're like, we've already traveled quite far. We don't want to. So then they're destroyed. And only a few were saved who actually listened. So that's the believer, right? You said, I'm a Muslim. I'll do it. But you don't want to go to the next stage. You don't want to go to the next stage. Like I have Islam, but I don't have Ihsan. Like I don't feel like I'm with Allah. Right? Let's say in the case in point, the frustration of not being able to find a hadith, right? Do you get frustrated? Yeah, of course you get frustrated. You're not with Allah, period. Because Allah is giving and taking from you. And if you're with Allah, you don't really feel His giving is to His taking is giving. You don't feel frustrated. Your car doesn't start, you don't mind. Alhamdulillah, not a problem. You receive money, you don't receive money. You're liked, you don't like. It's no difference. When you have no hopes and aspirations in anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing else, nothing makes you happy apart from your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's something that's unshakable, unmovable. Nobody can interfere with it. So the only thing that saddens you is when you mess up with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even that doesn't sadden you too much because you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. And so it's that was the hadith anyway. It's like so people don't go to the next level. So they just it's how they are. May Allah protect us. And so, we have to go to the next level. Okay, being proud of one's own obedience, we mentioned that, right? So being Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, right? You look at you today, say Alhamdulillah, did you pray Fajr? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you prayed Fajr. Thank Allah for the good deeds that you did. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, right? That's iftikhar, right? I'm really proud. I'm very happy of the fact that Allah gave me that deed, as opposed to I did this and I did that, right? Um, Spite towards other people, right? So hatred towards other people. Why do you need to have spite towards other people? Well, they harmed me. Don't you have a Lord that will look after you? Don't you have a Lord that will make everything just between you? Don't you have a Lord that if you forgive that person, you will have a greater reward? So why do you need to have spite towards other people? Because you don't see Allah, right? Let's say even like the frustration of being wronged, right? The classic scenario, I'm the little brother in my family, right? So your big brother is sitting on you and getting your own hands and slapping you in the face, right? And you're like, so frustrating. He's so horrible to me, and I can't believe he's getting away from me. And then I can't even tell my parents because they're not even here right now, or whatever it is. Like, or the bully gets away with something, or the international community sides with the oppressors. It's like just frustrating that how is it happening? It's like you don't see Allah in the picture. You don't see Allah in the picture. You don't see Allah causing this. Allah is directly causing it. Allah is the one who's making your brother slap you in the face. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making these bombs drop on you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing these things. Allah is directly involved. So you don't need to be frustrated. You don't need to be angry. You need to let go. Do what Allah is asking you to do, and that's it. Do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you to do. Hate haram for what it is. Have, and so have salam to sadr, right? And I have no qualms with any individual because they're just dust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blowing in the wind, right? So spite towards other people, envy, right? So again, it's like a delusion. So when you're in the world of Alastu bi Rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And Allah is asking you, you don't even notice anybody else. And you don't see any limitation to Allah's grace. So you don't see that there's other people in this, you're just seeing Allah. So when you see, for example, somebody else has everything that you have, but more, right? Like their kids are more intelligent than your kids. Their kids are better behaved than kids. Their marriage is better than your marriage. Their whatever it is. Their business. Effortlessly they can learn things. This person, he not only has a PhD in physics, he's also a Hafiz, and just in passing, he also knows a bit of Persian, and in passing, he kind of like he has a penchant for like Japanese culture, so he kind of like knows some phrases. It's like what? Like I work so hard, I can't even do like half of that. So you have this things like so no you're trying to so that person have hasad, you limiting somebody. Like why can't like yeah, you look at something like Allah has given somebody some things, like why can't Allah give you that and more? And so Allah can. And so just don't worry about it. You should be and you have a goodwill to other people. You're very happy that Allah has given. You look at that person, you're happy that Allah has given those things to them. You say, Allah give them even more. Right? So the tight-fisted person can't see that because they're like, but if it's either I have it and they don't, or at least they don't have it. Like they can't do that. But the person who is, drowned in the sea of Rahmaniyah, they're drowned in the sea of like Allah is just Rahman. He just like gives unlimitlessly to everything and just Rahmah pouring out everywhere. Not a problem. Not a problem. And they don't see things being limited because they're with Allah. But when you're with yourself, everything's limited. And you're constricted by yourself. It's very hard. But when you're with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not a problem. Not a problem. And so, again, all of these things are symptomatic of a bigger disease. But you can work against it. So you are physically showing hasad towards people. You're going around making riba, or you're emotionally doing it. Whenever you hear that person's name, you feel this thing in your heart. You make dua for them. Say, oh Allah, give them that particular thing you're envious about them, right? You've given birth twice. She's given birth 4 times, and she looks way better than you. Like how? I just like I don't get it. It took me like ages to get off that way. It's like I don't get it. Like she just like that. Her kids are easy, and your kids are like just nightmare. Whenever you hear her name, it's just like, right? Make dua. Say, may Allah make her even more pretty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give her even more success in the dunya. May Allah give her even more kids with the easiest life and everything. You make dua for that particular thing, and you're pushing that thing away. You're pushing it away. Because what you're telling yourself by making dua for the person is Allah's rahmah is unlimited. Don't limit it. Just make dua. Right? Make dua. Not a problem. You make dua for that person. You keep doing that. But again, that's on one side of it. The real side of it is your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being Allah-centric. Your life is being Allah-centric, focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the meaning of hasad is dislike and annoyance of the gifts given to God, God has given to other Muslims, and wishing they would lose them, whether or not you want to have them, right? Now there's envy, which is good, right? And I'm so envious of that person. MashaAllah, when he was 12, his parents took him to this shuyukh and he studied at the age of 12. I'm so envious. Meaning, I wish I could have done that. That's something good, and I wish I could have done. That's not hasad. Hasad is that you don't like. It's like, and if you hear of that person that they have more than you, it just rubs you the wrong way. Right? And subhanAllah, some people even have hasad towards their kids, like subhanAllah. That's crazy. May Allah protect us. Okay. So goodwill, make dua for everybody. Where do we get to then? Among them is persistence in disobedience of God, right? So this is a major disease. Like you have something haram in your life, and you've just given up the fight. You've given up the fight. Like this is just one haram thing or two haram things, or of the many haram things in my life that I just do. That's just who I am. Khalas. I've accepted it, right? Which is not good. Okay, so all of us, we have to be the boxer that is the worst boxer in the world, but you ready for 5,000 gazillion rounds. So round one, ding ding, knocked out. Round two, ding ding, knocked out. Round three, ding ding, knocked out. But you get back up again. Every single round you're going to be in the next round. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. Right? Bell goes, ding ding, knocked out again, knocked out again, knocked out again. But you're not going to give up. Right? Or the ant, right? Look at ants, right? How small they are. All the big objects in front of them, that makes it so difficult to deal with, but they just get up. And then there's this leaf in their way, and then there's this in their way, but they get up, right? And so their reliance is not on themselves. It's not on their own determination. It's on the grace of Allah. So yeah, I know I'm an idiot. I know I'm a fool. I know I'm just like the most hopeless case in the world, but Allah isn't. So they have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that keeps them going. Right? So don't rely on yourself. I need to have more resolve. I need to have azm. Azm is not, that's you. Don't rely on yourself. Rely on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take you out of your problem. How am someone like me supposed to focus in prayer? I can't wear hijab. It's not, I just can't do it. It's not going to do it. That's just not me. That's for those people, but not me. Why are you trying to limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercy? Don't do it. So you have too much hope, not enough hope, or not enough fear, and you just keep doing the haram. Right? And that's why fiqh comes in. So we say fiqh is not important in itself, but it is, right? You don't know about halal and haram, like then you end up doing the haram all the time. You don't know what's going on. Miserliness over things that Allah has made compulsory for you, right? Miserliness, period, right? This person just like miserliness doesn't make any sense, right? So like, so there's an emotion, and then there's how you manage things, right? So how you deal with money. You say, well, you have money in your hand. Why didn't you give it away? So, oh, because I need it for this, because I need it for that. But being attached to money is a problem because money doesn't do anything. What does Shakespeare say? This is, being British, I have a major problem with salamat al-sadr, right? Being goodwill and having a pure heart towards America in general and Americans in general and American language specific. So you hear the word trash, it's like, no, it's not trash, it's rubbish, right? It's not an elevator, it's a lift, right? It's not, we call it garage, you guys call it garage, right? Whatever it is, right? It's not gas, it's petrol or fuel, right? So I have this thing with Americans, mashallah. May Allah purify my heart of anything towards Americans. So anyway, Shakespeare uses the word trash, right? So he says, whoever takes money has taken trash. Whoever takes your money from you has taken trash. It was once somebody else's, and then it became yours, and then will go to somebody else. But whoever takes your name to insult you has done something that impoverishes you and has not enriched him. What do you get from insulting somebody? Nothing. So he says money's just trash, right? It's just a means to do things. It comes and goes. And particularly in our time, right? Particularly in our time, you have $2 million in your bank account. $2 million is only a lie that we all agree upon. It's just made up money. It's just made up, right? It's just made up. It has no innate value at all. So at least in the past, people used to gather gold and silver, right? And you actually have something that has innate value, but it's just a number. And if the number does fails, then the number's gone. You don't have anything. So it's there's many reasons. So again, if you go to the core of it, this person is enamored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, looking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't not impressed by money or anything else. It's not really. So you take their money away, or they don't really care. It's not really just like whatever. Like so many times you play with money, it's like it's just not like that. It just doesn't work like that. You just ignore the numbers, and it kind of works out the same way. Right? Nicola, can you get the Little Prince from downstairs? The Little Prince. Sticking out. You know that one? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll come back. So bad thoughts about a God and about other people. So you have, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gave me a broken leg because, he hates me and he wants everything. Like, this is the beginning. Like, oh, I just got married and everybody told me that marriage is difficult. And look, it's now going to get really hard. It's like, subhanallah, right? They just have a very negative, right, view, right? Someone advised my son, he's only 9, right? But like, don't get married because it's just you're gonna be like chained up for like ages. Just like do something else first, right? It's like subhanallah. It's like, life is that bad? Like you're that negative? Like so you look at the world like it's just gonna be negative, right? So be positive about world because the one who's running the universe is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be positive about the things that happen. Yes, you have cancer, but it's positive, it's good for you. Yes, you lost your job, but it's positive for you. Right? Allah is your buddy, He's looking after you. And عند ظن عبدي بي, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Hadith Qudsi, I am exactly as my slave thinks about me. Right? فَلْيَظُنَّ بِي مَا شَاءَ. Let him have whatever good opinion or bad opinion he wants. Okay. So have a good opinion of other people. And don't have, don't be negative about people and then about people as well. So su'adhan is when you assume the wrong thing about people, right? So if this is in reality part of pride, like people who gossip about other people is part of pride. Because what you do is by talking bad about other people and finding other people things about other people that are bad, or even ferreting out or assuming the bad in other people is about putting yourself up and trying to make yourself better in your own eyes. So, you see a rectangular object in somebody's pocket, like, oh, I bet that's a cigarette packet, right? You see a sheikh in a masjid with money in his hand. I'll bet he steals money from the masjid. You see a guy talking on a phone. So, oh, I bet he's talking to he's like inappropriate, do something bad or whatever. It's like, subhanAllah, do you have to assume that? So when it is normally the case, right? Somebody has a girlfriend. He's on the phone, right? And he's like, it's after work, and he's just said in work that his girlfriend's gonna pick him up on her way back. Like, what's the chances that it's gonna be his girlfriend's like, yeah, so that's just normal, right? Or somebody who drinks and then they have alcohol at home, so you assume something in a cupboard is alcohol, that's fine. But the issue is when you assume something that is less likely, just because you have something bad about yourself. Right? Anyway, I just want to read this thing about a businessman, right? And forgive me, I'm reading, somebody can find it in English, I'm sure. But this is Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince. Is anybody familiar with the story? Antoine Saint-Exupéry, I can't even pronounce it. My French is really bad. I won't read the whole thing in French, but I'll just summarize it. Anyway, so he said, I'll just read it in English, but if somebody can find it online, just look, the Little Prince is like chapter 8 anyway, about money, right? So he says, then he came to the 4th planet. So there's a little kid flying around the universe, right? On a plane. And it was a planet of a businessman. And this person was so busy that he couldn't even bother to even like lift his head when this kid arrives on the planet. So hello, how your cigarette has just turned out. And then a guy saying 3 and 2 equals 5, 5 and 7 equals 12, 12 and 3 makes 15. Hello, 15 and 7 makes 22, 22 and what is it? And 6 makes 28. And then he goes on and it's like, he says that makes 501 500,600 and 28,731. So the little kid is like 500 million of what? He says, you still there? You're so annoying. Go away. He says 501 million. I can't remember anymore. So then he's like, let me see what? Can't follow all of this thing. So he's counting, counting, counting. Anyway, so then this little kid is asking, like, what are you counting? You're a businessman. What are you counting on this little planet of yours? He says, I'm counting the stars. Right? And eventually he answers, I'm counting stars. So he says, millions of these little things that I own, these are all stars. I own them all. So then he says, what is it that you do with these stars that you own? So you own a ridiculous amount. What do you do with them? He says, well, what do you mean? He says, what do I do with them? So yeah, I don't do anything with them. I own them. So you own the stars? He says, yes. He says, but I just saw a king who, and then he said, the guy interjects, no, kings, they don't own stars, they rule stars. That's totally different, right? So he just had landed on a planet where there was a king, and the king was like, I rule everything. And he's like, what does that even mean? Nobody listens to you. Yeah, but I rule them. So here's somebody, yeah, you don't, he doesn't, he's the king of those stars, but I'm the owner of those stars. So it says, what do you do? What happens to you when you own all of these stars? Well, it makes me rich. Okay, what do you do when you're rich? So I buy other stars, right? So this is money, right? So like, what's the point of money? Like, what do you just look how you live life? That's all. Like, what can you do? That's what's interesting, right? Just like kids. Like, I have kids. What do you do with the kids? I have them. That's pointless, right? I'm married. Okay, it's great. Do you have a good relationship with your spouse? No. What's the point of being married then? What did you gain? What did you gain by having this? Like, I'm Muslim. Do you use your iman? No. Okay, what's the point in doing these things? So many times, or I'm a hafiz. Okay, what do you do? Mashallah, do you recite 2 juz a day? Yeah. Okay, mashallah. Somebody else who reads 2 juz a day. What's the difference? But so many times we look at things, right? It's like an achievement, having this, or having that, or I'm a faqih. I know stuff. What do you do with what you know? Because knowing stuff does not make you better or less, anything. It doesn't do anything. Knowing things does not mean anything. We care about what you do with what you know. And we care about the sincerity of what you do with what you know. That's all. But otherwise, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm wealthy, I'm not wealthy. It's all the same, right? And one of the Jahili poets, he said that. He said, I'm blamed. He died like 36, I think. And he said, people blame me for spending a lot of money on alcohol and things like that. He says that if you look at people's graves, the people who have money and the people who don't have money, they look pretty similar to me. There's not much difference. So the believer looks at money vis-a-vis what you can do with it, right? Right. So being miserly is like, so there's no logic to it. There's no logic to it. So if you have something, then you do something with it. But money is just what you can do. You want to do something good, do it. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. And that's what you need money for, right? Somebody who owns a house, somebody who is renting a house, there's not much difference. You're both living in the house, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a house. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying you can't have a good opinion. But if you look at things, it's basically the same. You've got a car, I've got a car. This is a car. There's no difference. So anyway, that has it has a whole thing. The Little Prince is a really, really good book, by the way. I think the guy commits suicide or something like that. But anyway, it does exist in English, and it's really, really fun. It's nice. It has lots of things in it. Nice. And it's a critique of like how dumb we are. May Allah forgive us all. Okay. So bad thoughts about considering unimportant the things that Allah has made important, right? So you tell somebody, sister, for example, you got to cover your forearm. She's like, okay, big deal. It's not really important. Or brother, sunnah to use siwak. It's like, what? I wash my teeth for crying out loud, so I don't siwak. It's like, it's not really a big deal. Or like tajweed, like what's the difference between a calf and a calf? Honestly, like it's not a big deal. Or they're like, it's not ri, it's the ri. It's like, what? There's the same thing. Who cares? So you say, does Allah care about that? So I care about it now. Right? If Allah cares about it, I care about it. Right? Including obedience, disobedience, the Quran, sacred knowledge, fire, hellfire, these kind of things. So all of these acts of disobedience are evil and will lead one to destruction. In fact, some of these things will take one out of Iman. May Allah protect us all. Okay, virtues of the heart. They include belief in Allah. Yaqeen, being certain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We spoke about that last week. So yaqeen, there is yaqeen with the mind and yaqeen with the heart. They're not the same thing. right? And so we're talking about yaqeen with the heart, meaning you intuit Allah's existence with your heart. It just kind of it's like feeling something, right? And so the purer your heart is, the more you will intuit that, and it's just kind of like natural. Sincerity, meaning doing things for the sake of Allah, and that can be on three levels. I'm not doing this to show off to other people. I'm doing this so that I'm showing Allah that I'm doing the right thing. I'm showing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm doing the right thing. And um, one second, please. Okay. So ikhlas is on three levels. I'm showing off to Allah in order for Him to give me something in the dunya. So I have an exam tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna give some charity. Ya Allah, I'm giving charity for your sake. Please help me in my exam tomorrow. My son's sick, right? Whatever it is, right? And so you're seeking the dunya, but you're seeking the dunya through Allah, and it's a product of your belief in Allah. So it's something that's loved by Allah, something that's good. Nothing wrong with that, right? So doing like uh, uh, fearing Allah, so Allah put success, barakah in my marriage, get my kids by me doing this thing, for example. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, level number two, I'm doing it for the akhirah. Ya Allah, I'm giving this sadaqah, please save me from the hellfire. Ya Allah, I'm going on Hajj, please give me Jannah. Okay, and then number three is, oh Allah, if you give me the dunya or the akhirah, that's just between you and yourself, oh Allah. I don't want the dunya, nor do I don't want the dunya, and I don't want the akhirah, nor do I not want the akhirah. But I just want you to accept me. Like I just want you to be happy with me. That's all. And so this person, if you went to ask them, they said, Habibi, I have a question for you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent you to Jannah, but while you were in Jannah, He sent a very polite and nice angel to you with a letter saying, please read this letter. And in the letter, it says, Allah does not love you. Would you prefer to be in that situation or to be in hell and you're in hell forever, but you know that Allah loves you? That's a different level of sincerity, right? Where you're only doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send people He loves to hell? No. And does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, He doesn't send people to Jannah who He hates. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you ask this person, how do you function? How do you function? What is driving you? Are you being driven by the dunya? Or are you being driven by the dunya in a halal way through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you know, if I do what is right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me the dunya that's going to help me, etc., etc., etc. Or are you driven by the akhirah, dead scared of hellfire and trying to get yourself in the Jannah? Or are you driven by a personal relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if there was no heaven and hell, you'd still do it? There's a difference, right? There's a difference. So these are all ikhlas. They're all sincerity. As long as you're not showing off to other people, not doing good deeds so that other people see you're doing it for Allah, it's all ikhlas. But there's different things. And then humility. So humility, again, a natural product of being in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going to be humble. Respect for Muslims, right? So you see all these people around you that might be doing bad things, but at the end of the day, this person's promised Jannah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give iman to somebody who's a fool, who's ugly, who is an idiot. They might look ugly now, they might do some bad things right now, but that's fairly irrelevant in terms of what they are forever. So You have to have great reverence for Muslims, right? As opposed to many Muslims were like, I don't want to live in a Muslim, right? The fact that I'm teaching English, right? The fact that I'm teaching in English and people respect English and I have a British accent and people are impressed by a British accent, it's all symptomatic of like deep spiritual diseases, right? Whereas we were like, oh, who cares about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not choose the English race. Allah chose the Arabs. Allah did not choose English, British English language or American English. Allah chose Arabic. We should have reverence for Arabic. We should listen to Arabic. Who cares about English, right? So we have this deep, what's it called? Like inferiority complex, right? It's a really deep spiritual thing. It's not just a thing that we might observe in other people. It's a real thing, right? Respect for Muslims, generosity, right? Your generosity that stems from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. You see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as giving without things. So as long as you give without stint, without any measure, don't really care. But you don't do that when Allah doesn't want you to do that. So you have debts and you're giving charity, that's wrong. Like that person wants their money today. Like I'm asking you every week, can you pay me back, please? Can you pay me back, please? Can you pay me back, please? And then you give it to somebody else. That's not generosity, right? So somebody being clever with finances, but they're very happy. If they had it, they would spend it all, not a problem, right? And often generosity is easier when you don't have money. And it's harder when you have money, right? Many people, subhanAllah, who have money, it's like they're really, like it's ajib the way they think, right? Generosity, keeping a good opinion of others. So always having a good opinion of others, seeing the best in other people, right? When there's two possibilities, you assume the best. Your son doesn't usually pray. So you ask him, have you prayed? And he's like, he normally lies, right? And so like, you're like, have you prayed? You sure you prayed, right? That's not so well done because that's what's normal. As opposed to like, why are you having a bad opinion of people? You're assuming they have bad intentions, right? Assuming he probably did this for this reason, probably that for reason, right? She's just showing off, right? How do you know she's not just showing off? How do you just like that, right? You go to someone's house, they make a lot of food. Oh, she was just showing off. Oh, I just did this last minute. Oh yeah, you have to say that. Maybe she's just saying last minute. That's all. Don't assume people are show offs. Honoring the rights and the sacred things of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the opposite of like, I don't care. Like this is tajweed, it is important. This is Shariat, it is important. This is the Kaaba, it is important. This is the Mus'haf, it is important. Thankfulness for the gifts of God, including obedience and his other gifts. So you're genuinely thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you have Iman, genuinely thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he gave you good deeds. Steadfastness in trials such as sickness, tests, death of loved ones, loss of possessions, and the rule of people, like bad people ruling over you in an oppressive way. Consistency in obedience, patient avoidance of disobedience. Right? Even though it's difficult, you're doing the right thing. Confidence about one's provision. Allah is going to give to me whatever I need. I don't have to worry. Right? And that's important in your looks as well as you get older. Right? Anybody here younger than 30? Right? So you reach 30 and it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm dying. It's like, wow. It's like, if you think about life, it's ajib, it's short, but it's unbelievably short. It's like the first 10 years of your life, you're just a fool running around doing nothing. Then you got 10 to 20. That's your life, right? 20, 25, 30, and then it starts going down. Like it's like those short airplane things. Like you just basically settle down. And then they're like, oh yeah, please everybody put your belts on. We're going for decline. It's like, what? It's like, that's it. And so you look at your body and you're like, oh, I'm getting older. I'm getting weaker. And this and that. Gray hair. Oh, that's part of confidence about one's rizq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the looks. Okay, two 17-year-olds. Okay. Well, they think they're young, but they're not, right? Because they are just on that brink between 10 and 25. SubhanAllah. Like 10, 25, 17 and a half. So you're thinking, yeah, of course every day you get stronger and every day you get more capable, right? But it's no. It's like SubhanAllah, your life is so unbelievably short, right? So anyway, like somebody looking about their looks, right? Or a teenager, confidence about the rizq. That's an amazing thing for a teenager. How do I look? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you look as best as you need to look. Don't worry about it. Will he like me? Will she like me? Right? that mentality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you or not give you exactly what you need. Don't worry about it. You have exactly what you need. Don't worry about it. And don't even look at it. When you start even seeing yourself worrying, push your heart away from that. Do I look like this? Am I like this? Am I like that? Don't worry about it. Look after your health for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's all. Keep yourself fit, healthy, right? Don't waste your body for no reason. But you have a pimple, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that thing, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's part of your rizq, and you're confident this is exactly what you need at the right time and the right place, right? 12, dislike of the dunya. So the dunya is not a place, nor is it a thing. Dislike dunya is an attachment. So somebody talks about cars vis-a-vis having cars. Someone talks about look vis-a-vis having look. Like, I don't care about that. I'll give you an example. Someone to this guy who's, who's does a lot of exercise. And I was talking to him about weights versus like calisthenics. And he's like, Fareed, you look really good, ripped. Like, don't do big weights, do small weights, because like high rep. And so it was like that thing stuck in my head. You would look good ripped. Like that's a mentality. How you would look. I'm not thinking about exercise in terms of how I would look. I'm looking at exercise in terms of survival, right? I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to be in the situation where I continually all my body's falling apart. Like, I want to be healthy to be able to just function. And so he's thinking about how I look, right? So when you hear that like dislike of that, that's part of the perfection of one's iman. Like, I don't even value those things we're talking about. Or something like, buy this car. I know it's a bit more expensive, but it looks really nice. Or the engine is like this, or it's got like, why? Like, why would I care about that? It doesn't mean anything. Right? It doesn't matter. Buy this, it's cheaper. Like, what does that mean? You're going to save money. What does that mean? Right? Or if you do this, people will respect you. Why would I care about people's respecting me? That's called dunya. Right? As opposed to using the world as a means, right? Do this master's, it will help you get a job and you'll be able to do this, this, this. If you don't have a master's, it's going to be hard in the work thing. You're not going to be able to do things. So now you're looking at the dunya vis-a-vis your ibadah, right? So the believer looks at the dunya like water for wudu. He hears a brook, there's some water, I gotta make wudu. That's the dunya, right? It's just a means. That's not dunya anymore. But dunya meaning the things of this life that you use for themselves, your looks, your wealth, your time, your abilities, whatever. Right? Hostility towards the nafs and the shaitan. So you having hatred toward your own laziness, your own stubbornness, your own pride, your own these things, right? The shaitan hated these things. Love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger and the Sahaba and his family, right? And the second generation of Muslims. So case in point, how many of the Tabi'in could you mention? None. How many film stars could you mention? Tons. Problem, right? Do you identify with Muslims or do you identify with kuffar? I want to identify with Muslims, but I actually identify with kuffar. It's a problem. Satisfaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dependence upon him, right? In every single thing. Physical, financial, mental, spiritual, right? Other acts of the heart which are fard and which shave the heart, right? And then he goes on to some of the fiqh, and so it says, and we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue next week, inshallah, some sins of the limbs, right? So these are all things that are on a more topical level, right? Than in that onion that we're talking about. So you are eating the haram on a daily basis. Good luck on dealing with your heart. You're not going to be able to, right? You're obviously going to be plagued with all sorts of cancers in the heart because you don't really care about the Sharia, right? So somebody comes up to you and they say, I just care about being a good person. I don't care about the details of halal and haram, right? Sharia is like, that's kind of extra. As long as I'm a good person, you're not a good person in reality. You have no idea how bad you are, right? And this person is just blind to many things. May Allah protect us all. So inshallah, we'll talk about this, inshallah, next week. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.